Are you ready to go? Good morning, YouTube. That was way too long. What's up, guys? Today I am super pumped because I'm giving you my full review of the ASICS Gel Nimbus 22. So after my first run in the Gel Nimbus 22, I was kind of underwhelmed. It's not super innovative, but after I put it through the paces and I did a solid 50 miles in it, I realized it doesn't really need to be. Just because a trainer doesn't have any crazy technology or any gimmicks or frills, it doesn't make it a bad trainer. In fact, the Gel Nimbus 22 is a really solid trainer. And we're gonna get into exactly why today. So if you're unfamiliar with how I kind of do my shoe reviews, let me give you a rundown. So first I start with the upper, then we talk about the midsole, the outsole, and then I give you my conclusion on the shoe, what I think about it, what are my overall thoughts. I also rate this shoe out of 5 stars. So if it's the best shoe I've ever worn and I never want to take it off my foot, it's gonna be 5 stars. And if it's the worst shoe I've ever run in and I can't bear to look at it anymore, it's gonna be 1 star. Then at the end, I throw up a screen with the pros and the cons so you can get a visual idea of what I like and dislike. Enough of all this. Let's start with the specs. So it's interesting, on the ASICS website, it says that the Gel Nimbus 22 is 9 ounces for a women's size that's not listed, and it says that it has a 13 millimeter drop. However, on runningwarehouse.com, it says that the shoe is 9.7 ounces for a women's size 8, which going by feel makes more sense to me, and it says that it has a 10 millimeter drop, so we'll go with that. So it's 9.7 ounces for a women's size 8, and it has a 10 millimeter drop. Running Warehouse says there's 31 millimeters in the heel and 21 in the forefoot. The upper is made of a monofilament mesh, which I don't think really matters for our purposes. We can just call it a mesh upper. Like I said earlier, I took the shoe to 50 miles and it's still perfectly intact with no real signs of wear at all. Upon putting this shoe on at first, I thought that it would be really hot and not breathable at all because of how thick this material feels. But I will tell you, on some of my colder runs, I absolutely felt that air coming through the toe box of this shoe and hitting my foot. It wasn't freezing, but it was something I felt, so that's a huge plus for some of you who might be using this shoe in a little bit of a hotter climate. And I'm very jealous. This is a neutral shoe, but this upper has plenty of structure to hold your foot in place. There's 2 overlays in the midfoot to kind of give you a nice lockdown. And the fit is snug, but not overly so. It's really comfortable, and it all kind of opens up in this toe box to give you some room for your toes to kind of breathe and splay out. It's not a narrow shoe, and I feel like it could fit really all different kinds of foot types. One negative about this upper is the lack of pull tab. Yeah. Come on. Everything about this upper is super plush. Normally, I don't like shoes that have too much padding in the upper. I just feel like it's too built up and thick, and it's just not my thing. But I will say that I had no hot spots, no blistering, no discomfort, so I guess this padding is doing its job. One thing though that I will say is that I feel like there's a little too much of it, and if they got rid of some of it, it would cut down on weight. And I just think that this shoe would be overall just a better shoe if it was a little bit lighter. And while they used a softer material for this mesh, it's super durable, and I think it'll give you plenty of miles and last just as long as the midsole will, which is what we're gonna get to right now. The midsole of the Gel Nimbus 22 is made of ASICS Flight Foam material with some signature gel cushioning in the heel. And if you remember from my first run impressions, shoes feel firmer than I anticipated, but I thought it was supposed to be one of their softer shoes. I felt like this shoe was firmer than I expected, and I didn't love it. I will say that the foam has broken down a little bit and gotten softer for me, but I still don't think this should really be marketed as a high cushion shoe. That being said, I do feel like my foot is protected and cushioned from the road. I know that I always hate on gel, but I did feel it in this shoe actually, and I really thought it was a good shock absorber, so I'll give it to ASICS for using it in this shoe. Maybe I didn't feel it in the Glide Ride, but I definitely feel it in the Nimbus 22. A huge positive that I think about Flight Foam is that it feels really resilient and like it's gonna give you a ton of miles. I think that the foam on this shoe will probably last like 400, 500 miles, and that might sound like a lot to some people, but I just can't see this dying anytime soon. The midsole also feels a little bouncy and responsive. I ran a lot of easy miles in this shoe, but I tried to do some up-tempo work also to kind of see how it would do. And during my faster paces, I did feel like I was being sprung forward a little bit, although I will say that this shoe feels like a cement brick when doing treadmill intervals. Like really, like a cement brick. The Nimbus 22 doesn't have a rocker technology. It's pretty freaking flat, as you can see, so that's kind of a bummer. ASICS leaves it up to the runner to get up on their toes themselves, and how dare they? How dare they make me work for it? I'll get over it, but still, come on. All right, so if we move to the outsole of the shoe, ASICS is using their AHAR composition, which stands for ASICS High Abrasion Rubber. I have to say, this stuff is pretty durable. I have a little bit of wear, but compared to the other shoes I've reviewed, this outsole is far superior than most. But it comes with a price. I think this AHAR material makes the Nimbus 22 so much heavier than it needs to be. I'm not saying get rid of it completely, but if they got rid of some of it, like it doesn't have to cover the whole thing, then maybe that would cut down on weight and just make this a little bit more of a pleasant shoe to run in. Another thing I really don't love about this outsole is this plastic truss-stick system. Yeah, that thing. I don't love that. I really think this can be done away with. I get it's for stability purposes, but I just don't think it needs it. We have enough structure in the upper. This shoe isn't beefed up enough as it is. Get rid of this. There should be no hard plastic in running shoes anymore. One positive about this outsole that I did mention in my first run impressions is the flex grooves. I really felt like I benefited from those on runs. I don't love a really stiff shoe, and my foot was able to flex, especially in the forefoot, how it's supposed to, and it just improved my stride. So maybe you don't have a rocker system, but you got these flex grooves so that my foot can actually spring forward. All right, I see you, ASICS. Okay, so here's my full take on the Gel Nimbus 22. This is a solid daily trainer. It's a good shoe. If you're a person who just needs a trainer to log long runs, run after run after run after run, and you don't need all the frills and the innovation and the technology, then this is definitely a shoe that you should look at. One great thing about ASICS that I will say is that all of their shoes are basically bulletproof. I've never had a durability issue in any ASICS shoe that I've worn. This shoe will easily give you 400 to 500 miles in my personal opinion. That being said, if you're a person who wants to use the Nimbus 22 for a multitude of different kinds of runs, long runs, short, faster runs, long, fast runs, coffee runs, then I would recommend maybe looking at the Nimbus Lite or not looking at this shoe at all. And that's why I'm giving the ASICS Gel Nimbus 22 3.5 out of 5 stars. The Nimbus 22, in my opinion, is not versatile and really can't be used as a tempo day shoe. I would really suggest keeping this as like your long, slower run day shoe and getting something a little bit lighter for those tempo days. All right, so it's that time. Let's throw up the screen with the pros and the cons. For pros, we have durability. This shoe is incredibly durable and can give you almost 1,000 miles, I would say. So definitely a huge, huge benefit. The next pro is comfort. This shoe is really comfortable. I had no issues with hot spots, blisters. The upper feels like butter on your foot. The Nimbus 22 is great for long miles. It's just gonna get it done. There's no problem with it there. So for cons, we have not versatile. This is not a versatile shoe. Like I said before, this is just for me personally for long runs where I'm just racking up the mileage. It's not a tempo day shoe by any means. We have unnecessary weight as a con. I think ASICS could really lose some of the padding in the upper and a little of the rubber in the outsole, and it would still be a really comfortable, durable shoe, and it wouldn't be as heavy. Another con for me was that the foam was firmer than anticipated. I was expecting a really plush ride, and while the foam doesn't feel like a rock, I don't think that I really would consider this a plush shoe. And I guess cons for some would be that it's not a very exciting shoe. It's a pretty standard daily trainer with no real cool technology or anything like that. Again, it doesn't necessarily matter for me, but I know that a lot of you are bored of the ASICS technology, so I'll rack it up as a con here. The ASICS Gel Nimbus 22 is $149.95 on runningwarehouse.com, but if you use my code RUNHELLER in all caps, you can get 10% off. So this shoe is totally worth that price to me. I think ASICS was justified in making the shoe $150 just for durability alone. And with that 10% off, I mean, it's definitely worth a try. So guys, that concludes my full review of the ASICS Gel Nimbus 22. A great shoe. Has its problems, has its strong points. Overall, I liked it. If you enjoyed this review, please like it down below and subscribe. And when you're done with all that, hit that notifications bell as well so you can be notified every time I upload a new video. I have another video coming for you guys next week, but in the meantime, you better get out there, get on the grind, and don't forget to run like Heller. See you next time. Well, I know that I said I know I've said before in shoes, I know that I might have said, I think I said